Today, I would like to highlight upon uh, a development which took place from 1988, and for the past 35 years, there are so much of development in this particular interdisciplinary approach of algebra and graph theory. Today, my talk shall be on genus of zero divisor graphs from commutative rings. As I mentioned just now, this is the interaction between one of the important or fundamental disciplines of mathematics, namely algebra, and another well-developed or developing subject of discrete mathematics. In fact, if you look into the connections between the algebraic structures and graph theory, the famous mathematician Arthur Cayley, the Proceedings of American Mathematical Society in 1876, he first introduced the topic, namely pictorial representation of graphs. In fact, later on it was referred as Cayley graph, and it is a graph construction from finite groups. And due to its advancement and application, not only in group theory, but also in the routing networks, network theory, especially in the case of parallel computing, these Cayley graphs have been extensively, realistically used. Thereby, it has gained its momentum. Of course, not only that, in the theoretical perception, the Cayley graphs are being used to characterize doubly transitive finite groups. Of course, because of the property that Cayley graphs are regular and vertex transitive, these classes of graphs are attracting many researchers, but still a lot of openings are regarding Cayley graphs, even though it is regular and vertex transitive. On the other hand, in 1988, Ivan Beck, an Italian mathematician, published a paper in Journal of Algebra titled that Coloring of Commutative Rings. Please note that title is Coloring of Commutative Rings. Actually, in that paper, he started the construction of graphs from commutative rings. It is the first ever graph construction from the algebraic structure, namely commutative ring. But he never uses the word graph or anything. He started with the concept of the notation of coloring of commutative rings. Of course, later on in 1992, Anderson and Livingston, Journal of Algebra, they started or they have refined the definition of Beck and introduced zero divisor graph of commutative rings. And of course, since then, for the past 28 years, the problems or the concepts related to zero divisor graphs from commutative rings explore the interdisciplinary properties of one hand algebraic structure commutative ring, another hand discrete structure, the zero divisor graph. Of course, it is a very natural development that there are so many other constructions, total graphs. There are so many constructions, at least I can name 25 other graphs, and their generalized structures have been well studied. Of course, as I mentioned just now, it's an interplay between algebra and graph theory. So assumption could be in algebra and the derived property could be in graph theory, vice versa. Okay, throughout my talk, I shall be using the following notations. R is a commutative ring with identity, which is denoted by 1, which is not equal to 0. Z of R, which is a substructure or set of all elements of R, they are called zero divisors. That is, elements A and B in R, A not equal to 0, B not equal to 0, but AB equal to 0. It's the unknown structure of the underlying commutative ring. Because of the presence of zero divisors, the structure of a commutative ring cannot be described easily. Of course, Z star of R denotes the set of all non-zero zero divisors, because naturally 0 is a universal annihilator. 0 into A equal to 0 for all, A not equal to 0. Of course, all 0 also. So it is worthwhile to take only the non-zero zero divisor Z star of R. And of course, there is a subset of Z of R, namely nilpotents. An element of a commutative ring is said to be nilpotent, provided a power n is equal to 0, n is a least positive integer. Because n is a least positive integer, a power n 0 implies a into a power n minus 1 equal to 0. Thereby, it is a zero divisor, and it is a subset of Z of R. Of course, according to Kaplansky, the complement of the zero divisors is called regular, and as sociable, the units of commutative ring R is denoted by U of R. Of course, throughout my talk, I shall use G of gamma. Gamma denotes graph, G denotes genus. And please note that if R is a finite commutative ring, then R is nothing but a union of zero divisors and units. But in contrast to that, if R is an infinite commutative ring, then the R can be literally partitioned into zero divisors, units, and elements which are neither zero divisors nor units. For example, if we take integers, 0 is the only zero divisor, 1 and minus 1 are the only units, and of course, except these three elements, all other elements are regular. Of course, 3 is neither a zero divisor nor a unit in integers, but it is called regular element. And please note that people who happen to know the concept of von Neumann regularity don't compare with this. That is entirely a very strong property. Here, an element which is neither a zero divisor nor a unit is supposed to be called as regular element. Of course, nilpotent. And one of the important property about the nilpotent, which is not true for the superset of zero divisors, is nothing but the set of all nilpotent elements is an ideal, because the very fundamental basic binomial theorem will guarantee that the sum of two nilpotent elements is a nilpotent, whereas sum of two zero divisors need not be a zero divisor. Therefore, this nilpotents form an ideal, whereas zero divisors is not an ideal, because of the property that it is not closed with respect to addition. For example, if you take R is equal to congruent to modulo 6 classes, 2 and 3 are zero divisors, but 2 plus 3, 5, which is relatively prime to 6, which is not a zero divisor. As I said, the definition of zero divisor graph, even though it was not mentioned by Beck, but credit goes to Beck, an Italian mathematician. Let R be a commutative ring. Then the zero divisor gamma of R is, this is the graph gamma of R. Of course, to specify any graph, one need to specify what is the vertex set and what is the edge set. The vertex set is Z star of R, set of all non-zero zero divisors, whereas the edge set is nothing but set of all edges AB, such that this dot denotes multiplication in R, A into B equal to 0, for A comma B in Z star of R, A and B are distinct. That is, adjacency is made through the property of multiplication in the commutative ring. Of course, the distinct elements, the product must be 0, then A and B are joined. For the information of the audience, in this part of graph theory, normally people used to take either the full set of ring or group or whatsoever it be, either the full or the subset, or in sometimes the set of all ideals. So that is the vertex set of the graph, and corresponding to one algebraic property, the edges are created. So edges correspond to any one of the algebraic property. Of course, in this case, the product is 0. Of course, people note that if R is an integral domain, that means 0 is the only zero divisor, and thereby there exists no vertices. So gamma of R is an empty graph. Of course, even though I say that the zero divisor graph is introduced by Beck, this definition is not due to Beck. Beck has taken all the elements of R as the vertices and the adjacency relation is same. But in this case, 0 is adjacent to all the non-zero elements, thereby very strong substructure of complete bipart. Sorry, a star graph is a subgraph of this that is being avoided. Literally, this is a definition due to Anderson and Livingston, Journal of Algebra, 1992. Of course, people, please look at a moment to that. If I take a vertex A, what could be the degree of that particular vertex? You please note that there is a concept called annihilator. Annihilator means annihilator of A is nothing but set of all B in R such that AB equal to 0. So naturally, whenever you have got a B such that AB equal to 0, you will get one edge. Ultimately, 0 is not considered, even though 0 is an element of annihilator. A not equal to B, therefore, suppose A square is equal to 0, we are not joining because of we are considering only simple graph, A not equal to B. So even though this A, 0 and B, suppose if they are elements of annihilator, they are not contributing edges. Ultimately, the cardinality of annihilator of A minus 0A is the degree of the vertex A in gamma of R. Just quickly, I will give an example just for the purpose of audience. Probably somebody might have seen these examples previously. Okay, however, there may be new audience. You consider three commutative rings. One is congruent modulo 6 classes with respect to addition modulo 6 and multiplication modulo 6. This is congruent modulo 8 classes Z8. This is a quotient ring Z2 of x over x cube. So the zero divisors of this Z6 is nothing but 2, 3, 4, of course, non-zero zero divisors, and zero divisors of Z8, 2, 4, 6, and zero divisors of this quotient ring. This is a set of all polynomials in X with coefficients in Z2. This is the ideal generated by X cube, and these are the zero divisors. For example, if we multiply these two cosets, what will happen? I have to multiply the corresponding representatives. X into x square x cube. X cube is an element of this ideal generated by x cube. Ultimately, it will be amalgamated there. Therefore, that is x cube, zero element of this. So these are three commutative rings for which zero divisors are known. Ultimately, they have only three non-zero zero divisors. Now get into the graph. The zero divisor graph of this is 2 into 3, 0, 2, 3, 4, 2 into 3, 0, therefore they are joined. 3 into 4, 0, therefore they are joined. So in the case of Z6, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. In the case of Z8, this is 2, this is 4, this is 6, 2 into 8, 2, 4, 8, 4 into 6, 24, C. In the case of this one, this is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one. So please look at that. There are three commutative rings. The corresponding zero divisor graph is one and the same. The path with three vertices are a path of length 2. And please look at the same time that as commutative rings, they are not isomorphic. Just because of the reason that this contains 6 elements, this contains 8 elements, they cannot be isomorphic. So non-isomorphic commutative rings may give the same zero divisor graph. So that is the implication, and it is the fact that the zero divisor graph constructed out of a commutative ring is not fully representing all the algebraic properties. However, it is only partial representation through picture or graph. Okay. Next, I will give you all the possible zero divisor graphs on one vertices. This is a single vertex. The two graphs Z4 and Z2 of x over x square. For two vertices, these are the three. For three vertices, 1, 2, 3, 4. For four vertices, 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, this is the quotient ring of polynomials in X with coefficients from finite field of 4 elements over ideal generated by x square. This is the commutative ring This is a polynomial in two variables x and y with coefficients in z2 over ideal generated by x comma y whole square. And for all these four rings, this is a zero divisor graph. For this z2 cross f4, this is a zero divisor graph. But so for 6 and 7, these are the things. So these are the possible zero divisor graphs on four vertices. Okay. Of course, if you look at a moment, the graphs on 1. So I go K2, path of length 2, K3, K1, comma 3, C4, K4. Kindly note that P4 is missing. A path with 4 vertices is missing. And C5, etc. Okay. Now, ultimately, what for this observation? There are certain forbidden graphs, or in the sense that there are graphs which cannot be realized as zero divisor graphs. For example, path with n vertices, n greater than or equal to 4, cannot be realized as zero divisor graph. That means you cannot study path through concept of zero divisor graph. Similarly, cycle of length 5, cycle of length n greater than or equal to 5 cannot be realized as zero divisor graph. Of course, cycle could be a subgraph of a gamma of R, a zero divisor graph, but it cannot be induced subgraph. It means to say, if C5 is a subgraph of this one, definitely there will be some middle chord. It cannot be induced subgraph. That's a fact. Okay. In the case of complete bipartite graphs, what are the complete bipartite graphs which can be realized as zero divisor graph? You take two integral domains R1 and R2. To consider the direct product of R1 cross R2, R1 times R2, Cartesian product, component-wise addition and multiplication. And to find the corresponding zero divisor graph gamma of R1 times R2, we have to find what is a zero divisor set of this one. Of course, one can see that basically they are integral domains. So zero divisor set of R1 times R2 is nothing but first component 0, second component any element from R2, and vice versa. First component could be any element from R1 and the second component is 0. Of course, if you take two elements in this part, A1, comma 0, A1 not here, A2, comma 0, sorry, 0, comma A2, if you take two elements here, naturally, because of the component-wise multiplication, their product is 0. Ultimately, this is the zero divisor set. Of course, 0, comma 0 has to be omitted. Ultimately, the zero divisor graph of R1 times R2 is nothing but complete bipartite graph of parameter cardinality of R1 minus 1, cardinality of R2 minus 1. Of course, it is some special property. What could be the cardinality of an integral domain? Or in general, finite integral domain is a field. In general, if you take two finite fields, one is F1, which is of cardinality P power alpha, and another field Q to the power beta, where P and Q are primes, according to fundamental theorem of finite fields, the Celebrator-Waderband theorem. There do exist finite fields of cardinality P power alpha and Q power beta. Thereby, the zero divisor graph of F1 times F2 is K P power alpha minus 1, Q power beta minus 1. Of course, this implies that numbers of this kind, K, M, N, M is of this form, N is of this form, there exist rings for which the zero divisor graph is complete bipartite graph. Of course, on the other hand, if you look into the complete graphs, of course, why I am very much interested in this is they are directly related to the genus properties of zero divisor graphs. Suppose if you take P is a prime number and you take ZP square, the congruent modulo P square classes, addition modulo P square and multiplication modulo P square, you know Euler-Phi function, which gives the number of elements which are not relatively prime, or the GCD is greater, number of elements which are relatively prime. Therefore, units of P square is equal to Euler P function, which is equal to P into P minus 1. Ultimately, non-zero zero divised sets. Here P square elements are there. This is P square minus P. Get it subtracted. 0 is limited. It is of cardinality P minus 1. Ultimately, this graph is nothing but Kp minus 1. So for any prime P, there do exist a commutative ring for which the zero divisor graph is complete Kp minus 1. Of course, one can check that similar manner, gamma of Zp cube equal to Kp square minus 1. Okay. And who started this study on zero divisors in algebra or commutative? It's my teacher and my guru and my guide, who was recently passed away in May at the age of 92. Of course, I remember him at this juncture, Ganesan from Annamalai University. He only started first the study on zero divisors and commutative rings. Of course, he published two noteworthy papers in 1964 and 1965 in Mathematical Annalen. And the first result which he could prove with regard to zero divisors is nothing but let R be a commutative ring and number of zero divisors is equal to m greater than or equal to 2. Thereby, the integral domain are avoided. Integral domain means 0 is the only zero divisor. So we take commutative rings which contains at least 2 zero divisors. Then R is necessarily finite and it contains not more than m square elements. So it's a very beautiful property. The proof is just some half a page proof, but a very concrete information about the finiteness property of commutative rings. If a commutative ring contains finitely many zero divisors, the ring itself is finite and the upper bound is m square. Of course, in the case of integral domain, this R is a commutative ring with only one zero divisor, means it is an integral domain. So we are not, this theorem is not applicable there. When R is a commutative ring with this, then R is finite. Of course, this theorem was proved in 1964 and it is cited in 1992, the Anderson paper. Of course, from 1964 to 1992, over the period of 28 years, the citations for this theorem might be maybe around 25 or 30. But starting from 1992 until today, the citation has crossed 400. You see, that is what the fantastic component of research. One result which is proved some 55 years ago is being re-quoted in some other perception of mathematics. So that is research. And please note that because of this beautiful theorem, the immediate impact is Anderson just he puts it as a corollary. If R is a commutative ring, then the zero divisor of R is finite, if and only if either R is finite or R is an integral domain. So that's that means this latter part is trivial part. R is finite if and only if gamma of R is finite. Naturally, people in graph theory, they will look after only finite graphs. But for the purpose of audience, I wish to inform you that the graphs considered as zero divisor graphs include infinite case also. In fact, I would like to put on record that the intensity of study on infinite graphs is almost equal to intensity of study on finite cases also. So infinite graphs play a vital role in this construction. Okay. Of course, there are many infinite graphs which are considered in this perception. Now let me directly coming into the title of my talk, genus. What is meant by genus of a graph? You know, it is regarding the embedding. You take the P or Sn, then you think that you are putting some handles. Handle means just like that you are attaching some K handles in this sphere. Now they are serving as bridges. What is the embedding of a graph? You take K5. We used to draw at one point in time. We may not be able to draw an edge without crossing to the edges. These handles or bridges, they are the tool to draw edges over the handles without crossing edges. So you take a sphere, the handles are k in number, that is sk. The genus of a graph gamma denoted by g of gamma is the smallest integer n such that the graph can be embedded on Sn. So the sphere with k handles, I can draw the graph without crossing at non-vertex points. Thereby, the minimum k is called genus of the k. Of course, gamma is said to be planar. Can draw the graph in plane without crossing. If g of gamma equal to 0, gamma is planar. When g of gamma is equal to 1, the graph is called toroidal. Of course, these two simple definitions, they have got lot of implication in each and every part of the graph theory or graph constructed from commutative rings. A simple problem is characterize planar graphs constructed this. So that itself, but the question may be simple, the answer is too complicated. So that means we would like to have a overall view of the planar characterizations of commutative rings, of zero-divisor graphs of commutative rings, and toroidal characterizations of zero-divisor graphs of commutative rings. That's what my aim. Okay. Of course, it is a fact to be mentioned at this point that if omega is a subgraph of gamma, then genus of the subgraph is less than or equal to genus of the supergraph. Of course, these famous results, one can find it from the book Graphs, Groups and Surfaces by White. What is the genus of the complete graph on n vertices? Of course, m and n are integers greater than or equal to 2. People know it is the upper zeal of n minus 3 into n minus 4 by 12. And genus of a complete bipolar graph with the parameters m comma n, which is upper zeal of m minus 2 into n minus 2 by 4. Then complete bipolar graph, multiparted graph, the parameters of mn comma n, it is nothing but mn minus 2 into n minus 1 by 2. Then complete multiparted graph kn comma n, 4 components. So 4 independent sets of cardinality m, and every vertex of one part is adjacent with the other part, which is equal to n minus square for n not equal to 3. And in the case of 3, this is 5. But if we put n equal to 3 here, this will give only 4, whereas that is 5. And of course, these are the very vital results which are used in the characterizations of genus of zero-divisor graphs. Of course, due to these facts, if G is a graph on n vertices, because G is a subgraph of Kn, then naturally, as I mentioned earlier, G is a subgraph of Kn. Genus of the subgraph is less than or equal to complete graph. So G of G is less than or equal to n minus 3 into n minus 4 by 12. At the maximum, this only possible. And of course, there are some more observations regarding some particular classes of graph. For all integers n not equal to 5 or 9 mod 12 and n greater than or equal to 2, G of the Cartesian product of Kn and K2 is upper zeal of n minus 2 into n minus 3 by 6. If n is equal to 5, then G of Kn Cartesian product K2 is 2. And of course, this is a beautiful formula due to Euler. If G is a finite connected graph with n vertices, m edges, and the genus is G, then this is a relation connecting number of vertices, number of edges, number of faces, and the genus. N minus m plus f is equal to 2 minus 2g, where f is the number of faces created when G has a minimally embedded, that is important, minimally embedded surface, any surface, either it's a planar or anything, you take G, you take a minimally embedded surface of this, then this is valid, and that is also being used. Of course, there are some other bounds which are used in these characterizations. If G is a graph with n vertices with genus G, then minimum degree of G is less than or equal to 6 plus 12G minus 12 by n. Of course, the equality holds good if and only if the embedding is a triangulation of the surface. That means triangulation means each and every face is a triangle in the embedding. The face will not contain more than 3 edges in the boundary. Of course, if D is a graph with n vertices, m edges, grid gr, you please note that grid is the length of the smallest cycle in the graph, and the genus G. So very vital parameters of number of vertices, number of edges, grid, and genus, they are related by m into gr minus 2 by 2 times gr minus n by 2 plus 1 is bounded by the genus. Of course, what is it meaning? If I know these parameters, that means to say number of vertices naturally known, number of edges f, and grid, the minimum genus must be this many. So G is greater than or equal to this one. Of course, if G is a union of G1 and G2, they are G1 and G2 are edge disjoint, and the intersection contains k vertices, then genus of G is bounded by upper bound G of G1 plus G of G2 plus k minus 1. Of course, this is one of the properties regarding the Cartesian product of G1 and G2. G1, G2, B2 graphs, Ni be the number of vertices in G, I, then maximum of N1 into genus of G2 plus genus of G1 into N2, comma, N2 into genus of G1 plus G of G2 is bounded by, or it is maximum is less than or equal to genus of Cartesian product of G1 and G2. Of course, this is effectively used in the characterizations of genus of zero divisor graphs. Okay. The problem of characterization of genus for the zero divisor graph was started by Anderson and Mulle in 2001, Journal of Algebra. Of course, the main tool of this characterization is this. Of course, as I said in the beginning, the concept of zero divisor graph for rings are dealt this way. First, finite. Second, local ring. Local ring means it is a ring with unique maximal ideal. Then Artinian. Artinian means descending chain condition is true. If you go on reducing the ideals, you will terminate at a stage. And infinite. Let me once again repeat: finite, local, Artinian, and infinite. Of course, other classes. And any finite ring is an Artinian ring. Any Artinian ring is the direct product of finite local rings. Therefore, any finite commutative ring is the direct product of finite number of finite local rings. This fundamental property of the structure theorem for Artinian rings is the tool in characterization of genus of this one. Of course, if you take R is a finite ring. R is a direct product of R1 cross R2 cross etc. Rk, where each one is a finite local ring. Of course, the immediate observation, because of the Kuratowski's theorem, if k is greater than or equal to 3, what is happening? R1, R2, R3 are local rings. Local ring means zero divisor is the unique maximal ideal, and ultimately they are multiparted sets, and the adjacency is in between the M1, M2, etc., etc. Thereby, if you for this particular R, if you have got more at most 3 local factors, then you can talk about planarity. Otherwise, suppose R1 cross R2 cross R3 cross R4, immediately K33 will be a subgraph of R, thereby it cannot be planar. So this is the problem reduction by Anderson. If at all gamma of R happen to be planar, it should contain at most 3 local rings as factors of this one. Of course, naturally, the problem is reduced to either local ring or product of 2 local rings or product of 3 local rings. They are handled separately. Of course, this is the property which plays a vital role in characterization of for a local ring R is a commutative ring, M is a maximal ideal, which is nothing but the zero divised sets of R, unique maximal ideal. Then there exists a positive integer n such that m power n is equal to c. Of course, this parameter plays a vital role. In some cases, n is equal to 2, some cases n is equal to 3, 4, 5. So depend upon this number only, the proof runs over into several characterizations. Of course, if n is greater than or equal to 5, once again problem reduction. If n is greater than or equal to 5, that is R is a local ring with a unique maximal ideal m, with m power 5 is equal to 0 or m power 6 is equal to 0, then naturally K phi is a subgraph of this gamma of R. Ultimately, that cannot be played. So there are 2 reductions takes place by Anderson. One is number of components of the decomposition and the index of nilpotence of this maximal idea. Okay. The very first theorem by Anderson in this regard is nothing but, suppose you take Zn congruent modulo n classes, n is greater than or equal to 2, and which is not a prime number, because when you take a prime number, it is a Zp. P is a prime number. Any finite integral domain is a field. Thereby, there exists no zero divised sets. One cannot do it. N is not a prime. Then gamma of R is planar if and only if n is either of these numbers 8, 12, 16, 18, 25, 27, or which is the union of 2p and 3p. P is any prime. Of course, you can look at it this moment that the number of planar zero divisor graphs is infinite because P is varying over all infinite primes. You get one planar zero divisor graph. Okay, this is a single case. Of course, this characterized for this finite class of congruent modulo n classes, this is a complete characterization. Suppose if we go for the direct product of Zn1 cross Zn2, etc., Znr. R is a commutative ring, which is nothing but Zn1 times Zn2, etc., Znr. R is greater than or equal to 2. So because R is equal to 1 is dealt in this case. Of course, one can arrange the indices in this way. Then gamma of R is planar if and only if R is one of the Z2 cross Z4, Z2 cross Z6, Z2 cross Z8, Z2 cross Z9, Z2 cross ZP, Z3 cross Z4, Z3 cross Z9, Z3 cross ZQ, Z2 cross Z2 cross Z2, Z2 cross Z2 cross Z3, where P and Q are primes. Here, the number of components is at most 3. So these are the 2 rings which contains 3 components. If you have any ring which contains 4 components, automatically that is not planar. So these are the only commutative rings of this class for which gamma of R is planar. Of course, and Anderson took another class of infinite rings. Rn, m is equal to Zn of x, set of all polynomials in x with the coefficients from Zn over ideal generated by xm, the ideal generated by xm. It is a quotient ring. And for this class, the characterization was planar was obtained. Gamma of Rn, 2 to m equal to 2 means this is x square is planar if and only if n is less than or equal to 5. Gamma of n, 3 is planar if and only if n is less than or equal to 3. Gamma of n, 4 is planar if and only if n equal to 2. That means only R2, 4. Of course, for a gamma of Rn, m, it is never planar when m is greater than or equal to 5. Of course, after establishing the planarity for these 2 classes of graphs, Anderson considered the problem of finite rings. Suppose R is gamma of R is planar, then the click number of this graph must be less than or equal to 4. Because if click number is 5, K5 will be a subgraph. In that case, definitely it is not planar. So this planarity directly linked with the click number. Ultimately, one has to consider gamma of R with click less than or equal to 4. Of course, Anderson in his initial paper in 1993, the second paper, he has characterized all commutative non-isomorphic rings for which click is 3. That means there are 31 non-isomorphic rings. Of course, I could not list out all the 31 because of the space limitation, and thereby people started looking into that out of these 31 which are all planar, and that happened. Of course, this problem was partially taken by Akbari, Maimani, and Yasemi, 2003, Communications and Algebra, and they started the problem of this is for finite case. They started with local rings of at most cardinality 32. Of course, their result is this. Let R be a finite commutative local ring with the maximal ideal M. Then gamma of R is non-planar if one of the following holds. That is, it's a local ring, unique maximal ideal is M. If the quotient ring contains greater than or equal to 4 and the cardinality of R is greater than or equal to 26, if quotient ring contains 3 elements and the cardinality of R is greater than or equal to 28, quotient ring contains 2 elements. 2 elements means it is a finite field. Cardinality of R is greater than or equal to 3. Then gamma of R cannot be planar. So these are the things to be avoided. So if at all you wanted to go for characterization of finite commutative local rings for which gamma of R is planar, one has to take remaining cases only. Of course, it was taken up and they have proved that gamma 27, Z27 is planar. And after proving this, Akbar et al., they posed the question, is it true that for any local ring R of cardinality 32, which is not a field, gamma is non-planar, gamma of R is non-planar? Of course, this particular question was proved with the fact that a finite commutative local ring with more than 27 elements cannot have a planar zero divisor graph. Of course, more than 27 elements or more than 9 zero divisors. Of course, even though Akbari, Maimani et al. And Yasemi proved this, it was actually their theorem is this. Let R be a finite commutative Artinian ring such that gamma of R is planar, then R is quasi-Frobenius, or R is isomorphic to Z4 of X over ideal generator by 2, X square, or R is isomorphic to Z2 of XY over ideal generator by X, Y whole square. Of course, even though they have proved this, simultaneously during the same year, Smith independently proved and provided a complete answer to the case, and he has obtained all the finite commutative rings for which gamma of R is planar. It is in number 44, which I could not list out. And at the same time, this problem was simultaneously attended by Wang, Belshaw, Chapman. So it was a group of four groups attempted this problem, and very fortunately or unfortunately, all of them landed in a same statement, but all the papers appeared in the respective authors. Of course, in this contest, it is to be noted that the result proved by Belshaw and Chapman, they gave all finite commutative local rings with the planar zero divisor graph, and the technique is somewhat different than what Smith has applied. But this is the theorem they have proved. If R is a commutative local ring of cardinality 32, that is not a field, then gamma of R is not planar. And if R, M be a finite commutative local ring with integer like greater than or equal to 2 such that m power n is equal to 0, m power n minus 1 is equal to 0. If gamma of R is planar, then n must be less than or equal to 5. Of course, that was continued by Smith also. Okay. And after all these culminations, one can put it in a nutshell. In a finite commutative local ring, gamma of R is planar if and only if R is isomorphic to one of the following 29 rings. Please note that people may wonder what could be the tool in obtaining these things. You please note that by means of the famous characterizations for complete and complete bipartite graphs, if you want to have gamma of R planar, you should avoid complete graph on 5 vertices, complete bipartite on 3, 3. Thereby, the number of zero divisors are restricted, and ultimately there is a work by Redmond, Communications and Algebra, 2001, which gives that what are the possible rings on 4 with 4 zero divisors, 5 zero divisors, 6, 7. Of course, he has listed up to 11. And using those characterizations, the rings for which the property is not true are avoided, and ultimately the remaining are listed. That is one part of the proof. But the other part is one should give planar embedding for each of these rings, and that is a complicated part of the proof. In fact, the proof runs over several pages. So finite commutative local rings, this is planar if and only if it is 29. And of course, in the case of non-local, it is a complementary class. The gamma of R is planar if and only if it is for 15 rings. These are the 15. So altogether, for a finite commutative ring, gamma of R is planar if and only if there are only 44 finite commutative rings. That is over. Ultimately, now what is the case? Now the problem focuses on infinite cases only. Finite cases completely characterized. Of course, there are certain observations regarding what could be the possible thing. Cardinality of R is greater than or equal to 28, or number of zero divisors is greater than or equal to 10. These are giving only non-planar zero divisor graphs. Okay. Of course, after all this work, Smith in 2007, Journal of Algebra, infinite planar zero divisor graphs, he has characterized infinite cases for planarity. Of course, this is another characterization. Of course, several characterizations are there regarding planarity in the case of finite. So these are all focusing the components. What are the components? How the genus of the components give an impact on the genus of the supergraph. That is the thing. Now you see, if R is a commutative ring, cardinality of R is 32, and gamma of R is planar only in this case. Z2 direct sum F16, where F16 is the field with the 16 elements. Okay. Of course, in the case of toroidal case, so far I talk about only planar. Genus is 0. Suppose you would like to talk about toroidal. Wang in 2006, he started the study of genus of at most 1. At most 1 means either it could be 0 or 1. He has proved a characterization. R is a homomorphic image of Zn, P is a prime number. Then genus of gamma of R is less than or equal to 1, even only if R is one of the following. So it is ZP, field, Z4, etc., etc. So I don't want to read all these things, but please note that here is a case containing 4 components. I said in the case of planar, the number of components, number of individual in the direct product cannot be more than 3. But because genus is less than or equal to 1, 4, there is a case with 4. That's what we noted upon. Of course, this result is characterizations of the previous results. Just for the purpose, I put it the fact. In the case of finite commutative local rings, genus is less than or equal to 1, if and only if, or if it is less than or equal to 1, then one of these must be Colescott. The quotient field should not contain more than 8 elements, and the corresponding other cases. If it contains 8 elements, m square is equal to 0, cardinality of R equal to 64. If it is 7, it's 49, 5, 25. So ultimately, my emphasis is you please note that how the nilpotence of the maximal ideal plays a role in this case. So these are the cases m square, m cube, m power 5. So, and please note that beyond that one cannot, because genus will be more than that. And of course, completely character this genus 1 cases, because planarity was already obtained by Smith. Now Wang has completely characterized all finite commutative local rings for which genus is 1. Of course, these are some special classes of rings, as in case of RMN. These are considered for this ZPQ of x over x power m, genus is greater than or equal to 2. ZP square of x over x power m, genus is greater than or equal to 2. And these are the characterizations regarding this RMN for one case. So this is the characterization. Of course, after the work of Wang, Cameron, and Hsieh, they independently characterized all finite commutative rings whose zero-divisor graph has genus 1. So Wang has taken up the characterization of genus at most 1. This Cameron and Wickingham and Hsieh, they independently started for the characterization of genus 1, toroidal cases. But he has proved that if R is a finite commutative ring, local ring, with cardinality p power k, then genus is less than or equal to 1. Of course, these are some characterizations. And in the case of Cameron in 2008, discrete mathematics, let R be a finite commutative local ring, it is not a field, then genus is 1, if and only if R is isomorphic to following 17 rings. Of course, you see Z4 of x comma y over ideal generated by 2x, 2y, x square, xy, y square. You please see, you have to give a graph for this, embedding for this, which is with genus 1. So you have to have a torus embedding for this. So for each of these graphs, they have given ultimately one part of the proof is complicated. There is another characterization for non-local case, it is only 29. Of course, these are the 29. And in 2010, Bloomfield and Wickham, they have considered the case of 2. If R is a finite commutative local ring, then genus is 2, if and only if R is isomorphic to one of the following 14 cases. So, 0 planar, toroidal genus 1, local case of 2 has been completely solved. Recently, my own student Asir and Mano, Soft Computing 2019, they have characterized all non-local commutative rings and genus 2, and they have characterized these are the rings for which the genus is 2. So please note that all the local finite cases over, all the non-local finite cases over, however, infinite cases pending. Even some of the classes I put forth, these type of classes, genus 2 has not yet been studied. It is still open. Of course, in this context, let me put it briefly. These are the classes of zero-divisor graphs of rings with identity. Of course, the question started, what happens if you drop the condition without identity? Once again, Anderson and Lagrange, they started the study of zero-divisor graph without identity. Of course, after that, myself and my own student Kalai Murugan and his own student Vignesh, we started the genus properties of zero-divisor graphs without identity, and the paper is going to appear in Journal of Algebra and Applications, which is in the acceptance stage. Of course, one of the complicated problems of the class is what about zero-divisor graphs of non-commutative rings? Of course, it is a very complicated stage. People may start with matrices and then they can go for non-commutative case using Baader-Band semi-simplicity theorem, direct product of matrices, but the case is so complicated, no one has worked so far. Of course, the generalizations of zero-divisor graphs play a role. There are two vital generalizations. One is annihilating graph, essential graph. Of course, there are many more. Trace graph, dot product graph. Of course, in each of these classes, annihilating, essential, and trace, our group, myself, my own students, Asir, Selva Kumar, Kalai Murugan, and their own students, we have got characterizations of a planar and toroidal in some particular classes for each of these graphs. This trace graph is very recently studied by myself and my own student Sevagami. We published a paper in Acta Mathematica Angelica, and which is appeared in 2020. Of course, very recently, in the last month, a graph called the dot product graph has been introduced by Badavi and his own student Mohammed, and they have introduced the dot product. These are all generalizations of zero-divisor graphs, and they are only studied very minimally, and they are open. Of course, there is another generalization called ideal-based zero-divisor graphs, and they are also simultaneously studied. And genesis of all these classes are not very complete characterizations are done because of the certain complicated intricacies in proving or giving embeddings for certain things. Okay, I think I can stop at this stage. These are the selected references. And please note that these papers mostly appeared in journals related to algebra. We have published a paper with this Maimoni, Bornaki, and Tawal on Houston Journal of Mathematics. But in this paper, myself and Nitya, we have considered some generalized rings for near rings also. That's also there. And it is a cross cap. That's a different version of this one.